Hello everyone, welcome to my review of Wrestlemania 27, or as Vince McMahon would probably call it, the 27th anniversary of Wrestlemania, even though that is completely and utterly wrong, but Vince isn't above that kind of stupidity, so there you go. I apologize for the delay, but I was really busy this week, I haven't been feeling all that well, and I normally don't do my videos until the weekend anyway, so I didn't feel like Wrestlemania should disrupt my schedule more than it already has. The rebooking Wrestlemania videos were very time-consuming. I'm glad everybody seemed to enjoy them, but they were not fun to make with all the editing and post-production that went into it. And I'm not upset that I'm done with those videos. But again, I'm glad everybody seemed to enjoy them. Yeah, WrestleMania. Well, first I want to mention that I did watch the Ring of Honor shows. Honor Takes Center Stage, Night 1 and Night 2. GoFightLive.tv. Enjoyable shows. I'm not going to sit here and say they were perfect, but if all you want is good wrestling action, Ring of Honor brings that in spades. That's kind of what they sell their promotion on. And you're going to get plenty of action. I think my favorite match was the main event tonight, too. World's Greatest Tag Team versus the American Wolves. And I just really enjoyed that match. I'm a bit of a tag team mark, so yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It was definitely worth the $20, which I can't really say about WrestleMania 27. But before I dive into that show, I also want to point out that, in case you didn't see it, I was part of a major project that a YouTube video maker here named KyleEnjoysWrestling was a part of. He put this whole thing together, and he got a couple of us together to make this long video about how we would write WrestleMania. And I talked about a couple of the matches, and he worked on a lot, and I think a couple of other people worked on it as well. And I'll post a link to it in my description, but it was very interesting how WrestleMania 27 turned out in comparison to how we would have written it. So if you haven't seen it, I'll post a link in the description and go ahead and check it out. It was very interesting, and I was very happy to be a part of that project that Kyle put together. But yeah, WrestleMania 27. You know, I think of the WWE's recent ramblings about how, oh, we're not a wrestling company, we're an entertainment company, which doesn't make any sense since wrestling is in the name of your company. I mean, are they going to change the name of the company to Worldwide Entertainment? Or are they just going to drop the second W? W-E. Get the second W out. Some bullcrap like that. And that mindset definitely came through on this show. At times, it just felt like a bad variety show. From the intro with The Rock, even though Rock's promo wasn't bad, it was still had that Saturday Night Live feel to it, where it was like, here's your guest host. Bad comedy segments with Snoop Dogg and Pee Wee Herman. Congratulations, WWE. I'm a child of the 80s, and you made me hate Pee Wee Herman for 5 minutes. That takes a lot of talent. Hornswoggle, Great Khali, Mae Young showed up, and that was weird, and yeah, a lot of the backstage stuff they did was just indicative of their mindset of, we're not wrestling, we're entertainment. And even a few of the things they did with some of the matches, which I guess I'll get into later, but it shows that the wrestling to me is not their main priority. And if you want to know why they can't build up megastars anymore, you know, I understand that a Rock or an Austin is 1 in a million and very hard to find, but the way they promote their new guys, so many mid-carders have absolutely no direction, and this show highlighted that. Most of the titles don't mean anything. Doesn't matter who's holding the belt, because the belt means nothing. And that's a problem. And like I said, so many of these guys just have no direction. They're just placed into spots to fill, rather than given any kind of a purpose or motivation as a character to build something around them. And again, they just haven't done that, and they're not making good enough effort to build up new guys to eventually take over in the future. And I felt like this show was really sold on Attitude Era nostalgia. The Rock, Stone Cold, Trish Stratus, Edge and Christian, JR and the King, Triple H and Undertaker was their marquee match. They really did sell this Mania on the past, and you know, eventually that's going to run out to where you can't do that anymore. And I shudder to think where this WrestleMania would have been if they didn't go that route. Like, where would they be if Rock wasn't a part of this Mania? But yeah, there was no Money in the Bank this year, and I felt like that took something away from the show. And I wouldn't have had a problem with it if they had replaced it with something substantial, like an IC title match with some build-up, a US title match that had some purpose, a tag division. Goddamn, nobody wants to see that, I guess. Or even a big grudge match that required a ladder match. Something of substance to replace it with, but there wasn't. And, Money in the Bank, it was kind of becoming a joke with me as the years went by, because they just kept adding more and more people to it as characters became more and more directionless. I think it had gotten up to 12 people, and I just kept waiting for it to be just a battle royal, like 20 or 30 people with a ladder. But the good thing about it is that you had a bunch of these guys, and they were directionless mid-carders that had nothing else to do, but at least they were taking part in something that could let them shine a little bit. Like, I'm convinced that Shelton Benjamin only kept his job as long as he did because WWE needed him to shine in Money in the Bank every year. The consequences of who won that match actually mattered. So at least they were fighting over something important, and they were taking part in an important part of the show, even if only one character was really going to benefit from it. But now they've taken that away from them, and they're left with nothing. Guys like Morrison, Ziggler, Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, Kofi Kingston, The Core, Jack Swagger, so many guys. And I'm not even saying I'm the biggest fan in the world of all these guys, but they just have no plan for them, it seems, and it shows. And it's unfortunate because you're not going to build your future without focusing on these guys a little bit. But let's dive into the actual card. Here we go, right off the bat. Edge versus Alberto Del Rio. Now, I said a few videos ago that I felt that Alberto Del Rio was not a strong enough character to be put into this spot. Like I said, I feel like he's Tito Santana playing JBL. And B, even if he was strong enough, they have done a terrible job of building him up. He wins the Royal Rumble in a very fluky way. Then I think he got super kicked by Shawn Michaels during this Hall of Fame announcement, which, why would you bitch out your WrestleMania contender to a guy who's retired? I don't know. And then his next pay-per-view feud was with Kofi Kingston, who should be beneath him, so you're not really elevating Del Rio at all. And then he feuds with Christian on TV, has 2 matches, and he can't beat Christian. All Del Rio showed that he can do is that he can lock on an armbar when the match is over. They really didn't do a good job of establishing credibility for Del Rio as a contender. And by opening up WrestleMania with a world title match, it's almost like the WWE realized that people like me who said these things about Del Rio, that we were right. They realized what I already knew, and that he wasn't ready for this spot. He wasn't ready for a main event spot, so they didn't treat it like it was a main event spot. And in my opinion, it devalues the world title. It almost felt like an Intercontinental title match, really. Or I guess an Intercontinental title match by from the 90s, I guess. Or maybe even beneath that, I don't know. But it really makes the world title feel like it's not important. And they kind of just bitched Del Rio out. He goes out there, has a match, and everything from bell to bell was fine. The match was good, but he just kind of got kicked to the wayside, and that was it. It's almost like they realized he wasn't working. Again, I can't speak for WWE Creative. I don't know what was going through their minds, but the whole thing just felt pointless to me. And, matches like this make me think, why don't they just unify the belts? Because I feel like the current situation, the world titles change hands so often, and the fact that there's 2 of them, which doubles your chances of winning one, it's not as important to be a world champion because it's a lot easier to get one, and I think it would mean more if the title was harder to get. And again, if it'll prevent underpushed, underdeveloped characters from getting world titles, which they put the belt on a lot of young guys in the last few years, but it hasn't worked out because they've done such a horrible job of building them up. Maybe if there was just one world title, one undisputed champion, that'll make it a little bit easier on them. I don't know, but yeah, this match was just kind of, again, good match, but forgettable by the time it was over. And nothing really happened of substance. Edge just won, and that was it. I believe this was the only WrestleMania in history where no titles changed hands. I double-checked that, and I think that's certainly the case. But, of course, there were only 2 title matches, so there you go. And what was next? Cody Rhodes versus Rey Mysterio. I don't watch SmackDown that often. I don't think the brand has a whole lot going for it as far as the direction goes. I wasn't overly interested in this feud. I'm not a fan of the dashing Cody Rhodes character. It just felt like, one of the criticisms of a lot of Mysterio's WrestleMania matches is that they were too short. WrestleMania 19, the 3-way at 22, the match at 25 with JBL, which was a blink and you missed it type deal. And this one I'm going to criticize. I think it went too long. I felt like it got more time than it should have, and I don't know. I just wasn't overly interested in this match. I guess it was okay, but I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. I'm just not interested in the feud, I guess. Cody won, which I guess, are they actually going to do anything with this and try and build him up? I have no idea. What did we get next? Oh, and then we got this match. The 8-man tag, The Core versus Big Show, Kane, Santino, and Kofi Kingston subbing for Vladimir Kozlov. This match managed to be even more pointless than I thought it would be. You had 3 champions here, the IC and Tag Team champions, get completely bitched out in 2 minutes, which, again, being IC champion carries no weight. Being tag champion, I believe, somehow carries negative weight. By putting a tag title on somebody in the WWE, they're basically telling their audience that they suck, because they've just put no effort into a tag division. But yeah, I mean, this is your tag division, basically. You got Santino and Kozlov, Kane and Big Show. Oh, the band's back together, baby. And The Core. And that's it. I guess Edge and Christian too, but they didn't get their title shot that they were supposed to get a few weeks ago, even though it was advertised. Yeah, this match was just over in 2 minutes. It felt like a filler, and when you have champions on your show, or champions in this match, and you just kind of throw them away like that, it gives off the impression that it doesn't matter if you're holding those belts. So, yeah, a lot of titles were devalued on this show, definitely. And, yeah, I've already given this match more attention than it should. It was pointless. Then we had Randy Orton versus CM Punk. Good match. I felt like this was my favorite. This was my favorite build-up of any WrestleMania match. I thought the characters were well defined. I liked the storyline. Everything was handled well on TV. It didn't have the same hype or promotion behind it that Taker and Triple H did, or Miz and Cena did, or Lawler and Cole did, but it was my favorite build-up on the show, for sure. Match itself was good. It was not the potential show stealer I thought it might be, but I thought Punk did really well in the match, and I thought the finish was pretty cool, so I enjoyed this. It was a good match, not anything special, though. And oh boy, then we got this match. I got a rant to go on. Jerry Lawler versus Michael Cole. Now, I'm so glad that Daniel Bryan and Sheamus got bumped off the show to give this match the amount of time it needed and deserved. And if you can't tell, I'm being completely sarcastic. This match was a complete and utter disaster. It was horrible. First of all, did you not learn from your mistakes last year where you had Brett and Vince go 15 minutes? Did you not learn that maybe a 60-year-old and a non-wrestler put into the ring probably isn't the best candidate for a 15-minute match? And it wasn't even the match. It was from bell to bell. It was, it took an eternity. But then after the match, it just would not fucking end, and it was just terrible to sit through. And then they gave us a bullshit finish, so the whole thing was pointless. And they put so much into this feud, so much hype, so much storyline direction. They even made Jerry Lawler a world title contender just to make this match feel special. And I just have to ask, was it worth it? Was it at all worth it to do all this? Because this match was abysmal, absolutely abysmal. And the kind of promotion that you put into this match, you could have put into something else, wrestling related, but they didn't want to do that. And whatever their reasons were from doing this match, whether it be giving Jerry Lawler his own match or promoting Michael Cole's character, which I'll be fair, I think Cole's character, as a character, he's great. I think as an announcer, he's terrible. But as a character and on the mic, I think he's great, but he's not a wrestler, but they're putting all this hype and energy into him like he is. And he's going to have a WrestleMania match next year. I'm calling it right now. I don't know. I'm looking at the possibilities of who it could be. JR, King again, Steve Austin, maybe Shawn Michaels. I mean, there are like Daniel Bryan, perhaps. There's like a dozen possibilities for a WrestleMania opponent for Michael Cole next year, and it's just astounding to me that it's like, wow, that character's put so much into it that there's like literally a dozen options that you can do with him at WrestleMania next year, and so many other guys on the rosters don't have that because they don't put that same kind of effort into them. Again, it shows that what they want to be. They want to be a variety show, not a wrestling show. And this match was just abysmal, and I hope it was worth it. Whatever your reasons were for doing this, I hope it was worth it to you. It wasn't to me, and it didn't seem like it was to the crowd in attendance. This was awful. Just absolutely awful. Worst part of the show, and what else is there to say? It was abysmal. And we go from the worst part of the show to the best part of the show, Undertaker versus Triple H, which I think is a match that's going to get overrated as years go by, but it was a pretty good match. I enjoyed it. I did feel like it got kind of ridiculous after a while. I felt like one of the criticisms is that it felt like a lot of the match was spent with them lying down on the mat, and there was a lot of spamming of finishers to the point where it just got kind of silly, but I did enjoy it. It was fun to watch, and I'll give, I'm normally critical of them, Undertaker and Triple H, but they worked their asses off. Undertaker's going to kill himself doing that dive one day, and Triple H took some hard shots. It was a pretty enjoyable match. Not one of my favorites, but I'm not going to be overly critical of what was the best part of the show by far. It was a very enjoyable match, and I think you're going to get a rematch next year, so if you did enjoy it, get ready for some more. But yeah, this was the best part of the show by far. I really did enjoy this, and I wasn't really a fan of the build-up, but I did really enjoy the match. I felt like it delivered. So, kudos to Undertaker and Triple H. And we go to another match that turned out to be even more pointless than I thought it would be. John Morrison, Trish Stratus, and Snooki versus Ziggler and LayCool. What was the point of putting Morrison and Ziggler in this? I mean, I thought they were going to be put in this because they were going to have to be the guys that would carry this load and make this semi-watchable, but they didn't even get legally tagged in, so what was the point? Again, two characters with no direction, and they're talented guys, and this is all you have for them? This is the best that you can come up with for them. Really. All right. It should have been Morrison and Ziggler one-on-one. Maybe in a one-on-one Money in the Bank ladder match. That might have been a good idea. Give the guys that, because they're talented enough to pull it off. And I felt like the match was a waste of Trish Stratus. I mean, Trish is a big deal, one of the biggest, I would say the biggest female star they've ever created. And, okay, she's making her return to WrestleMania. You don't think of maybe doing something more significant with that? Because it felt like you could put any other diva in this role and it would have been the same. And the only reason she was in this match was because she has a name attached to her, but they didn't do anything with it, so what was the point? The big stars here were Snooki and Vicky Guerrero, who, I can't stand Vicky Guerrero. Anybody who watches my videos knows that already. And Snooki, by the time the match was over, she's the only one you walked away talking about, so nobody benefited from this. The only one who came away with any kind of positive attention from this match was the person that's not going to be there next week. And I'm not going to sit here and say I love the Jersey Shore and that I really give a damn about Snooki, but if you're going to use her in a way to benefit your wrestling talents, like you did with Cyndi Lauper back at WrestleMania 1. She helped out Wendy Richter, and Wendy Richter benefited from the attention of being with Cyndi Lauper. And that didn't happen here. So what was the point? It was just a pointless match, and that nobody benefited from. But whatever. Main event, Miz versus Cena for the WWE title. I love the Miz video package. That shit was amazing. I could have done without the cartoony marshmallow awesome lettering, but other than that, like, the whole presentation of the Miz was great. And John Cena, goddamn, they're going to try everything in their power to make sure we don't boo him. Now he's a religious, like, Baptist preacher, I guess, with a singing choir, and people still booed him. It's just a WrestleMania tradition. He's got to have a stupid entrance, and people are going to boo him anyway. Yeah, and this match, I didn't care. I didn't really care for it. Some people are saying it's one of the worst Mania main events ever. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it was just such an... the whole thing felt like a prelude to The Rock. Like, I just sat there the whole time thinking, okay, when's The Rock coming out? Please bring Rocky out because I'm not enjoying watching this. It was just an uneventful match, and the whole thing just felt like a prelude to The Rock ending, which I'll give WWE credit. They went with the ending that I thought they should, with Rock screwing Cena out of the title, because I felt like if the show had ended with Cena and Rock shaking hands and them like respecting each other, I would have hated it, and everybody would have hated it, and nobody wants to see that from these guys. They do want to see them beat the hell out of each other. And anything other than that would have just been... especially after the way they ended Raw the week before. I mean, there's no way you could have done that shaking hands shit. So at least the ending was enjoyable. I don't know if I like Rock completely bitching out Cena and Miz, your two top guys on the show. I mean, I liked it because I like The Rock more than them, but it's probably... I don't know if that's a good business move, but, you know, whatever. It was kind of just indicative of the whole thing where Rock was really the only thing about this main event that mattered, and that's pretty much how it turned out. So WrestleMania 27, I'm not going to say it was a completely shit show, but it was such a heavily flawed one, and one that just shows the mindset of the WWE, and I can't help but think that it's only going to get worse. I don't know. Now, on Raw this week, they've already announced one of their main events for WrestleMania 28, and they're going to give a year-long build-up to John Cena versus The Rock. Now, number one, if they actually follow through on this, and they're able to get a year-long build-up out of this, kudos to the WWE. I think that's a great idea. And this is a match that I would actually be interested in seeing. Cena's going to win. I've already accepted that, even though I'm going to root for The Rock. They're going to give Cena the win, but at the end of the day, you know, they could have him go over Rock 100 times. I still know who the better star is. But it does have that era versus era feel to it, and I think the fans are going to get passionately involved in which side they pick, although I think most people are going to pick The Rock, as we've seen on television. And if they follow through on this, it would be a great sign of long-term planning and foresight on the WWE's part, so I applaud them for that. I didn't really like how the segment came off because there was, again, a lot of ass-kissing, a lot of, oh, I respect you, but I don't like you crap, which, come on, Rock. When Rock said that, I was like, come on, man. Go back to insulting each other and hating each other. That's what we liked. That's what made us interested in the feud in the first place. None of that namby-pamby, I respect you bullcrap. And John Cena is such a pansy-ass bitch. He comes out and says, he basically said, I'm happy. I'm happy that Rock did what he did because, goddamn, if he didn't do it, gosh, WrestleMania would have ended in a draw, and nobody wants that. And that's my John Cena impression. I like whatever you like, and I'm a man-child who's WWE champion. And I wear brightly colored t-shirts, which, sadly enough, the red and blue that he has on is like a major improvement from what he was wearing before, which that's kind of sad. But yeah, I didn't like how that segment came off because it did play into that whole, it's like, oh, I like you too, but we're going to have a match anyway. And I just don't like that. But yeah, WrestleMania 27, I feel bad for anybody who paid full price for this. I did not pay full price for this. I saw it at a bar because they're asking way too much money for us to buy this thing, and it's such a heavily flawed show, and it's clear that they don't want to be a wrestling product. Their show shows that, why should I pay this much money for it? But yeah, that's my review of WrestleMania 27. I'm going to do a video on Lockdown next week, and then I think I'm going to take a break because these long videos I've been doing are really killing me. So we'll see what happens. So until then, later, everybody.